Hi, I'm Riley.
And I'm Ryder. And this is my dad's show.
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox with the Quarterback Dadcast. I want to say thanks to all of our listeners, thanks to all of our sponsors for all your support. We are continuing to enjoy this journey together, inspiring dads, but I want to take a minute now to talk about Acme Homes. You've heard me talk about them before, but I'm going to talk about them again. Bob Cumming, former college teammate, amazing leader, amazing home builder. They continue to take so much pride in the work they do, the craftsmanship, the attention to detail. Whether you're looking for a home up in Monroe, up in Sultan, up in Wenatchee, this is where they're doing their amazing things. So many people during the pandemic, as we have the ability to work from home, have decided to move out of the city to try to find homes where there's more acreage. Well, that's exactly what Bob and team at Acme Homes give you. So check out Valley Vista up in Monroe. Check out Daisy Meadows out in Sultan. And if you want to even go to Eastern Washington, check out Sienna Heights in Wenatchee. They're, again, amazing craftsmanship, amazing floor plans. You can visit them at acmehomeswa.com. And if you're interested in learning specifically about listings or mortgage opportunities, contact Jen at 425-308-8082 or Denise at 425-309-2318. So now, why are we doing a new ad? Because we want to talk about a partnership they have with Portage Bank. Kevin Jensen is one of the great lenders over there. He's the senior vice president. He's going to take care of you. And right now, if you obtain a mortgage through Portage Bank, Bob and team at Acme Homes are going to pay your $500 appraisal fee. I said that right. They're going to pay your $500 appraisal fee by buying a home through them, getting your mortgage through the folks at Portage Bank. So don't wait. Now's the time to contact Jen, contact Denise. Again, Jen's number is 425-308-8082. And again, Denise is at 425-309-2318.
So visit acmehomeswa.com right now to go visit and learn about your next new home.
Well, hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox again with the Quarterback Dadcast. We're in season 3. We're in June, a day after Father's Day. This episode's going to go live in a few months. And as always in season 3, we're dedicating each episode in season 3 to the big Mike Jacox. Rest in peace. Unfortunately, we lost my dad December 29th of last year. And so yesterday was kind of a tough day, first day without him, which was a little surreal, but I feel like I was able to connect them still and even talking to some customers this morning. So for all the dads out there, hopefully you had a great Father's Day. Obviously, this will be a couple months when this comes out. Our next guest is someone that I'm really excited that he decided to come on because I think he's got a very inspiring story. He's someone that I met actually in college. Not at Adams College, but at Central Washington. And I met him through my buddies who went to UW, which were our next guest, the Josh McFadyen. When he spent 23 years, he actually has spent 23 years and change at Colliers, a very well-known commercial real estate firm. We'll learn all about that. He also is the lead singer of Liquid Heat, which we'll learn about that. I also play backup guitar for them. We're going to learn about his 80s movies references, which is what he and I talk too often about. But more importantly, we're going to talk about Josh, the dad. We're going to talk about the power of sobriety and how Josh is working hard to become that ultimate quarterback of his household. So without further ado, Mr. Josh McFadyen, welcome to the Quarterback Dadcast.
Good morning, Casey. Thanks for finally getting me on here. And kudos to you for working on me over a long period of time because I tried to dodge this as long as possible, being a true procrastinator. And quickly, just for your legions of listeners, I am not the lead singer of Liquid Heat. We are still in the market for a strong lead vocalist, but we got the rest covered.
Perfect. Was Greer on cowbell, did we say?
It really depends on his commitment to our rehearsal schedule.
Yeah, that's a good point. If we're going to go after the international market, specifically Australia, I think you get Donnie on the banjo would 100%. Be just a perfect hit. And then Chuck, I think the xylophone is a perfect fit for him.
Or side stage dancer.
With a tracksuit on. I like it. Exactly what your mindset. That's why you're our captain and fearless leader. All right. So we start each episode with gratitude. So I want to know, Josh, what are you most grateful for as a father today?
Easy day to do that, seeing that it was Father's Day yesterday. So I had a lot of time to reflect on that, which is nice. And sorry you had a rough first one getting through it without your dad, and hopefully you had felt the community love and the village taking care of you. You were in my thoughts yesterday. One of the things I'm most grateful for as a father, and there's many, but it's really getting to see life through the eyes of our kids, and getting to re-experience a lot of things that I hadn't thought about since I was very young, and also getting to see a different take on things that I thought were a certain way through my kids' different personalities and just comments and takes on things, which has been really cool. I'm learning a lot about myself, a lot of my own strengths and character defects thrown right back in my face from my kids, which is kind of a fun daily grind.
It's a self-awareness journey, and it's a growth journey that we at that mindset of, you made me think of something I talked to my work world, is like slowing down to go fast, and slowing down to embrace those things that either we want to do something with it or just pretend it's not happening. So I love that you're that self-aware about it. Josh, I'm grateful for yesterday. Again, we're in June when this comes out. Hopefully I'll be able to report back that it's gone well. But Ryder, my son's, he's obviously got really into golf over the last couple of years, and he's going to be working on the greens crew at the local golf course where he and I both play. So I'm so excited for him to really take his Caddyshack skills to the next level, and being a true Carl Spackler at Meridian Valley Country Club. And looking for Mrs. Crane. She's wearing green so you can hide. But I think it's going to be great to see him just like enjoy that journey and meet buddies. And there's some older kids there. So I'm really grateful that my friends at Meridian Valley made a spot for Ryder to do that.
That's awesome.
All right, man. So take me inside the McFadyen huddle, and you're playing quarterback. Tell me who the players on this team are, and each person's role.
So we are a team of 5. We're a hockey team minus a goalie. Myself, I'm the elder statesman at 46 years old now. My beautiful young wife, who just turned 40, is, we're kind of co-quarterbacks. Like, she runs the option, I'm the pocket quarterback. So it just depends on what's going on a given day. And then we've got our 3 boys. We have our oldest, Adam, who's 8 years old. And we have twin boys who are 6. That's Matthew and William, Matt and Will. And needless to say, never a dull moment. Our kids are at a ever-changing age. And we just broke out for summer a few weeks ago. So we left the school routine, and we're trying to make sure we get enough on the calendar for the kids to have a great summer, and make sure we have enough of a routine for mom and dad to stay sane as well. So we're nearing, routine status for summer here, which is great. Nice.
And so you, for those that are scoring at home, you were a San Diego, which we're not going to say what San Diego stands for. It's a Wales. Actually, we won't. You moved recently, so talk about that move. Because I know there's dads at home that have maybe gone through relocating, because you up and left, took the family to the confines of the lovely state of Idaho.
Sure. Just a quick backstory. So obviously I grew up in the state of Washington, Bellevue in my younger years, and we moved to Redmond in middle school, graduated high school from Redmond, went away to college in the Bay Area at St. Mary's College my freshman year in Moraga. Finished my degree off at University of Washington. That's where I met all you characters. And basically, as soon as my diploma ink was dry, I moved to Southern California, wanted to chase the sunshine a little bit, and lived in LA, Hermosa Beach, just for a few months while I was interviewing for jobs. Was lucky enough to land a job down in San Diego, and had lived in San Diego from late 98 until we're approaching July 4th here will be 2 years for us in Boise, Idaho. So we just made that move to Boise about 2 years ago now.
How, talk about some of the challenges with young ones during that move.
You could probably put an asterisk next to this whole experience due to COVID and just how strange the world's been. But the real hard part was back in California before we moved, we had to keep them cooped up. We had our house on the market because we were building a house here. So we were jammed into like a smaller unit house, and nothing was open. So we really had to kind of keep them exercised and sane during that period of time leading up to the move. And we had planned this move long before COVID, and the kids' ages being a big part of that decision. Is, they were 4 and 6 at the time. Oldest was 6, twins were 4, and they had sort of started preschool and kindergarten down there in San Diego, and then COVID happened, so they were all pulled out. So just the universe kind of spoke. Like, they didn't have a lot of ties down as far as really good friends from a lot of time at school or anything like that. So, we had talked about it a lot. It just seemed like an opportune time to make a big, new direction for the family. And it had been in our hearts ever since we knew we were having the twins. We had been living by the beach in San Diego, which is great, in Encinitas, California. And we had a great time living there. It was a blast. Like, as young adults, that's the place to be. Wouldn't trade it for anything. But my wife, Deborah's from Boulder originally, me being from Washington. We really were looking for kind of a happy medium that reminded us both of where we grew up, when we grew up, so our kids could kind of have a similar experience to how we were raised. And so far, so good. We're finding that in Boise. There's a lot of traditional Americana here, a lot of parks, a lot of kids allowed to roam the neighborhood. We get rando kids show up at our house all the time here to play and don't know who they are, don't know their parents. We let them in, they played, no big deal. That was not happening in California. I'll say that much.
Wow. That's cool. That like takes me back to the days of growing up, like where you can give your kids a little bit more independence like we had. And, now, do you guys have a full farm with cows and bulls yet?
No, we ended up getting a property that's an acre, which is a lot, 10 times as much land as we had in California. And it's in the foothill, so it's on a hill, kind of overlooks the river valley. And like, most of the valley here is pretty flat. So being up on the hill at all, you get a nice little view and perspective. But we were farming a lot of weeds because the weather shifts a lot. So I'm out there on the trimmer, Griswold style a lot. And I'm a dog guy, but my wife's a cat person. And she convinced me to getting 3 kind of outdoor cats that are, they're savages. They take care of all the snakes, lizards, gophers, etc. So
gophers are Greek.
That's the only livestock we've got is our cats and the natural pests that habitate around here.
Are we talking like bobcats? Are we talking like Garfield?
We got some bobcats. We got a local mountain lion, a bunch of deer, badgers. We got badgers. We had a rattler at the side of our garage, and one of our cats is pretty surgical on taking out the racer snakes. So her kill count's like 9 or 10 on those.
That's outstanding. I had to kill one snake here. I'm actually in desert air right now recording. So when we this is like 13 years ago, and I am not a big snake guy. The first one I outsourced to Greer, friends at home, was one of our mutual buddies. And then the next 3 bull snakes, it was like Thor. I was like He-Man, like just the snow shovel and the adrenaline when you chop a snake in half. And apologize for all the snake lovers out there. I'm sorry. It was like me or him. And got so scary killing him. But once I did, I was like, I think he's like told his buddies, don't come to this guy's house anymore.
Well, and it's good to give him a good soldier's death. So word gets out that there's no negotiations at that point.
Right. I don't know how snakes talk, but they definitely did. But I will give much love to Greer. I was scared, pardon my French, shitless for the first one, but thankfully Greer, he took care of that first one for me.
Did he eat it afterwards?
No, he made boots.
Okay.
So he made boots, and then he made made pants too. He doesn't wear those. I think he wears those on casual Fridays. But I want to go back to growing up for you and understand kind of what life was like how that was like for you, and then talk about the impact your parents and specifically your father had on you now that you're a dad.
Sure. So, growing up, I had a great upbringing. Like, my folks, both great parents, Doug and Mary Lou, still together today. Spent a bunch of time with them this week, and they're in Boise right now. They built a house out here, so they spend some time out here in addition to living in Anacortes. And I'm the oldest of 3. So I have a sister who's 2 years younger than me, Aubrey, and brother 5 years younger than me, Mark. And, we didn't bounce around too much. I was born in Seattle. My folks moved to Colorado for a couple of years when I was really young. I don't really even recall it. And I was back in Bellevue by kindergarten. And you know how it was just growing up in the 80s and early 90s on the east side of Seattle is a great place to grow up for what we were talking about. Just lots of freedom, safe place, good demographic, a lot of just traditional, you know, American ways of living back then. And looking at it from today's perspective is just I feel really grateful to have grown up in that period. Like there's just a lot of I remember summers just like taking off and going to like over like country club with buddies to go swim all day or whatever and shoot hoops and just like and there was no checking in, no cell phones, none of that. So like as a parent today, it's like that's the tricky part. We have like low jack on our kids through watches and phones and stuff. And it's a leap of faith to as a parent now to just trust, that there's a plan for us and our kids and we got to loosen our grip and let them out the door and let them live a little bit. I mean, my instinct, and as you ask about how my dad raised me versus how I parent is, he was definitely a control style person and a protector, and he did it out of love. Like he wanted to make sure we weren't in, dangerous situations or, hanging out with bad people or at bad places. And, that's my default setting. I'm a lot like my dad. And, I'm trying to learn to be a lot like him in the right ways and also loosen my grip in a lot of ways. And, he and I are still working on our relationship today as we get older. And it's like, there's always self-care we can do and, introspection on, hey, like just because this is how I am doesn't mean this is right. And how can we communicate and work on it? And, genetics is crazy. Like I have a lot of default settings. Like I am my dad. Like the way I wake up out of bed, my genetic setting is Big Doug. And then, environment and my kids and my wife changed that and my circumstance changed that. And I'm grateful that's my default setting and I'm aware of it. And then I got to, take measures to kind of do my best to get the best of everything, get the best of how my wife was raised, how my mom raised me, and just be willing to change, not just, I don't know, like in 2022, I think the days of Fred Flintstone are long gone where it's not just dad leaves the house and, hey, I pay all the bills, leave me alone. It's not that. It's like dad is a provider, yes, but dad's also doing dishes and laundry and doing a little bit of everything. And mom's doing more than she probably would have done traditionally in other aspects. Also, it's like, Deb's a hockey mom taking the kids to learn to play on the sessions I'm not and all that. It's awesome. It's like, it's just, like I said, she's the option quarterback. I'm the pocket quarterback, and different situations call for different one of us to step up at times.
Love it. We've also referenced on previous episodes that maybe Deborah could be the general manager and you're the quarterback. But I like the dual quarterback thought.
That would work too. I mean, it's funny, just quick sidebar is when I met Deb, I was 29 years old, living in San Diego, and she was 23 at the time. And I'd never dated a girl as much as 1 year younger. I met her and I was like, like this is going nowhere. And like, date 2, I realized she's 100 times more mature than I am and like has her act together. So age means nothing. It's like without her, I would have flown off the grid entirely. So I owe her a lot for that.
That's awesome. You talk about, I think that's cool. You talked about, you and your pops are still working on, which I think that's life, where it's mastery of anything is you're in constant search of getting better in every aspect. And whether it's, and I that spoke to me when you said that, because like when my dad went through his dementia, when I wrote my book, I had a chapter at the end of it called, it was like trying to like have personal principles of win the relationship, not the deal, but tie it to like personal relationships. And I wrote, win the relationship with my dad, not the dementia. And I had to realize that I could not control dementia. It was just like, it was him and it was who he's becoming. And I couldn't reason with somebody who's unreasonable. And it strained our relationship at a time. But through just talking to people and people being empathetic, and then me giving myself grace, knowing I'm doing everything I can. And, Carrie is just an absolute beast of a support structure. And then a former actually guest, Tony Davis, former head coach and athletic director at high school my kids go, he said, man, deep down, he's still there. In there, he's there. And you got to just like love him. And I was like a shot to the heart. Like, damn it, he's right. And I almost had like caregiver burnout, but like when I kept focusing on just, Ian, loving him. Like it was the perfect time. He was almost like maybe that was what had to happen before my dad passed, because it was like our relationship got back together, and then like it went from like me not wanting to go, and COVID was an excuse, Josh. I didn't have to go see my dad because of COVID and the assisted living facility. But then once those last 3 weeks of his life, I was there every single day, and it was the best. So I don't know. You made me think of say that, but when you said you guys are still working on it, I mean, is there anything specific you'd feel comfortable sharing, like what, like an area that might speak to other dads at home?
Well, I don't know. I mean, some of it's just a generational thing too. So backstory, and I'm still learning about my dad. It's like he grew up in a generation where, men didn't share a lot. And if something made you feel shameful or you had trauma and some post-traumatic stress, you just kept it to yourself. And that was the way things were back in the day. And I feel like my dad's a product of that generation. And, his dad, we can sidebar into this conversation and go from there too. But his dad was an alcoholic, died before I was born. He never had much of a relationship with his father past a young age. And what relationship he had was an ugly one. It just, he's still dealing with that. And I don't fully understand that because I've had my dad my whole life and I don't know what it's like growing up without a dad. So it's like, I'm trying to, I don't know, I guess touch on that with him so he can heal a little bit. And I'm trying to learn more about what makes him tick from how he was raised compared to how I was raised. And it's a lot different. And, we're all doing the best we can with what we have. And he definitely has overachieved with what he had in his beginnings. And that's amazing. But it's like, like you talked about dealing with your dad's dementia where he's hard to communicate with and it's hard to see if he's in there. It's like, when we get into the concept of recovery, like acceptance is a big thing. Like when I'm in acceptance of things, like I can work on them. When I'm not in acceptance, I'm usually in self and just frustrated that things aren't going the way I want them to go or aren't convenient or whatever. And it's tricky. It's like you need to be in acceptance to make progress, but acceptance doesn't mean you're just hanging out and whatever's clever happens. You got to roll up your sleeves and work at it too. So that's kind of the daily challenge around here.
I love it. Excuse me. Acceptance is like one of my mentors said, Casey, it's okay not to know every answer. It's just not okay not to do anything about it. Right. And once we get vulnerable enough to admit that we all have gaps, every single one of us on earth. And I don't know if I told you this, Josh, but my dad's dad, when he was 6, so I never met my grandpa either.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of like this mystery. We believe it's kidney related. You talked about your grandpa dying of alcoholism. Now, did Doug, your dad, struggle with that?
No, not personally. From being an active drinker, no. Did he struggle with it from being a product of an alcoholic? 100%, yes.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people, I have alcoholism on both sides of my family. My mom's dad died before I was born, also not specifically of acute alcoholism, but it's just strange. Like I didn't have a grandpa on either side, and our kids are fortunate enough, ironically so, since we had kids rather late, relatively speaking, to previous generations. But my kids have grandfathers on both sides, which is amazing, and that's something I reflect on a lot, having not had a grandfather. I think that's sort of like a gap in my, my conscience, is what would that have been like? And for good or bad, just seeing a grandpa with a grandson is just an amazing thing. It's just like, you don't know how that's affecting them. All I know is I didn't have that experience. And like, it just brings a grin to me when I see either grandpa with my kids. It's awesome.
It is the best. Specifically one, like my dad was, before he got sick, he could kind of spend time, my Carrie's dad, Bruce, is just an amazing human being. He was down racing motorcycles, and Ryder used to say that he used to call them Mazagos. And so like forever, Grandpa Bruce would be like on the floor, racing Mazagoses and just super hands-on. And it's just that feeling of like they're learning that love and that relationship that I never really had it either. Like, I mean, my mom's dad, Yeah, I think this generation back then, they just weren't, like we talked about, like affectionate, open with their feelings, talking about things. So one thing I think it's going to be super powerful to talk, and I'm excited to share others and help maybe someone at home, a dad listening at home, or even a mom, whoever's listening, is alcoholism, which impacts so many people. And I've been lucky enough to talk to a few other people on the show people who have made the courageous leap to say, hey, this doesn't work for me. And I know you and I've had some amazing times when the beers were flowing. But something obviously triggered you to say, hey, you know what? I got to make a change. And so I'd love to, whatever you're comfortable with, share a little bit about that journey that other dads at home might be able to learn from, and talk about how you're working on that every single day.
Sure. Let me give a little backstory just on the trajectory of how I got to, entering a life of recovery. But
Hey everybody, it's Casey Jacox. I want to take a quick break to talk about my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafoods, who continue to be just an amazing loyal sponsor. And for those of you who've tried it, thank you. For those of you who haven't, you're missing out. And now's the time to make sure that you visit catchsitkaseafoods.com and get some of those amazing smoked salmon. Get some of that amazing rockfish, blackfish, black cod, salmon, whatever it might be, whatever you like. But what's great about opportunities they have, now's the time to subscribe to a box so that you're going to get that reliable cadence of the best fish directly from the dock to the doorstep. And what's great about Catch Sitka Seafoods, they make it so easy. So those that maybe aren't the best chefs at home, doesn't matter. They're going to give you this beautiful, nice laminated recipe card that tells you exactly how long to cook it, whether you're going to barbecue, you're going to bake, you're going to fry, whatever the way you want to do it, they're going to make it easy. So please visit them today, catchsitkaseafoods.com. Sign up for a subscription so that you're going to get the best fish delivered directly to your door. You won't regret it. And just like my daughter Riley says, Dad, I don't even like fish. And she does now because of my friends up at Catch Sitka Seafood. So with that, let's get right back to today's episode.
Like I said, grew up east side of Seattle. I actually was so into sports and everything, and my folks were pretty locked down on behaviors in high school. I didn't really get into booze much at all in high school, aside from some beers at some keg parties and stuff. But I wasn't a problem in high school. Kind of the freedom of college and all the movies I used to watch, Animal House, Caddyshack, et cetera, et cetera. I think I kind of look forward to eventually testing the water of what we used to think was pretty cool in movies and lifestyle stuff. And, slow burn for me. Like you said, I had a lot of fun drinking and carrying on when it was appropriate in my young 20s and, through my 20s. And usually the way problems with drugs and alcohol go is it was fun for a period, then it was fun with some problems, then it was mostly problems, not much fun, and then towards the end, it's just not fun. It's like there's a turning point. I mean, if you're an alcoholic and a drug addict, it's something changed in me. I mean, and if I'm being honest, looking back, just some things of the excessive drinking and consumption in college and even my early 20s, the signs were there, but I surrounded myself with other fun-loving people where maybe I was able to blur in a little bit and sort of rationalize that I didn't have a problem at the time with alcohol. And that became unignorable over time. It's just like friends I used to party with were doing normal things and could kind of take a left. And I was just sort of, booze changed in how my body processed it and how my brain processed it. And, it's a baffling deal. I thought I was past that. I knew about the family alcoholism and I thought I was fine for a period of time because I could always sort of turn it off. I go big on the weekend, hit stop, be serious at work all week, exercise, etc. Look good on paper. And then, call it somewhere in my early 30s, that really changed where the stop button broke and the drinking became less fun and more medicative, where it was just I just didn't feel comfortable without being medicated with booze at a certain point. And what I've learned through recovery is just an alcoholic's need to put booze in the system is just that it's like a spiritual malady where I just didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. And that goes on long enough that it becomes a craving for it, because that's the only time if you're an alcoholic, you feel okay is when you have alcohol in your system. Like that's kind of that warm, fuzzy, I can do it feeling. And, until you get educated on how that works, I had no way of knowing. It's just like, to me, I could self-will almost any single thing in my life. Like out of shape, work a little harder, get back in shape. Not doing great at work, work a little harder, catch up, get ahead at work. It's just self-will got me far on a lot of things. And it's just when it comes to addictive things like drugs and alcohol, self-will not get you out of that if you are an addict or an alcoholic. And God knows I tried for years to keep just spinning plates on sticks and, doing whatever I could to like make it look good on the outside and just protect my drinking. And I don't know, like if there's someone listening to this who knows, it's just like there's a normal moderate people don't do certain things. It's like they don't drive really drunk, or they don't sneak drinks in at work, or they don't, have a couple drinks to go out drinking with their friends to where they need to loosen up at home to just go get looser. It's just like, if that resonates with anything, that's an alcoholic brain behavior. And it's like, and I had that in spades. It's just, why wouldn't I want to be more comfortable before I went out to socialize if I knew I was uncomfortable or just, didn't feel good in my own skin? And I tried everything in the book. Like I tried quitting for a month, every year. Like, and that was always February because it was the shortest month of the year. So that one made sense. And, or just take time off. And it always came back worse. It's like, and it just time and time again, just beat a dead horse trying to change it or whatever. And it was crazy. It's like alcohol made me a liar. Like my disease made me a liar. Like I started getting sneaky and doing things that Josh wouldn't do. Just like you talk about your dad being in there and the dementia, like the Josh got a little hidden in the alcoholism there for some years. And I was not me. Like I was like, my body was haunted for probably the last 2.5, 3 years when I was still drinking. And, I credit my wife, Deborah, for sticking it out with me in that. And she's a person of faith, and she knew I was in there somewhere. And, like I had pretty well given up on myself. And, without that patience and faith, we're not here talking about this today, which is pretty amazing.
Wow. Powerful stuff, brother. And beyond grateful and proud of you for doing what you're doing. It's interesting is like, I talked about a lot of dads about before, even friends, like why this dumb blue snowball microphone I'm looking at and the microphone you're talking about. I mean, we've known each other for 20 years, but what I love and hate about this podcast is why does it take a podcast to be able to talk about this as friends? And as the one thing I've learned through this podcast journey is be more curious, less judgmental, listen to learn versus listen to persuade. Like go ask more questions and learn about your friends, not about just the sports and weather. Hey, how's life in Boise? But like ask questions. And I know you and I, even coming up to this, you and I had a couple of really good talks that lasted longer than probably both anticipated. We got to talk about faith, scripture. I don't go to church because I don't want to. It's just for whatever reason. But we talked about like the habits of journaling and looking at scripture, and it's been super fun to talk about it. And so I just commend you, dude, for doing what you're doing. And maybe as you think about the finally the day you said enough's enough, for dads out there that this will relate to. Maybe if you can talk about that day, talk about the tipping point that gave you the confidence to share with your family, and this is the way Josh is going.
Yeah, I could talk about all the days I decided to quit, but you need a longer podcast to do that because there's lots of them. I guess at the very end, I wanted to quit every single day that I was drinking, for the last year and a half. It was just like, as the saying goes, it's like you get stuck at that point where you can't imagine one more day with a drink, and you also can't imagine one day without it. You're sort of just stuck in limbo. And I was stuck in that limbo for a long time, probably a year and a half plus, with some days being better than others. But what really was the change was just, I don't know, something got into my soul finally where I was willing to take action. And that action in my case was I just got on the internet and found like an outpatient recovery program in San Diego. And I put my credit card down and signed up for it. I was still drinking when I did it, but I just finally took the action of signing up for it. And it's like, once you kind of put a few bucks towards it and get your name on there, it becomes real. And there's an ironic second part to that story is, so I had a set date and we had already booked a vacation to, where was it? Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Like, we had booked it months in advance. Why Deb allowed me to book that, I have no idea. But the all-inclusive eat and drink thing, and it was April 2012. And so, like, we were like, should we cancel this trip or not? No, like, we paid for it. Let's go. We'll just. So my grand plan was, I had already had the date where I was going to go into some outpatient recovery help when I got back. And the rule is, like, you have to come into like outpatient recovery at least 3 days detoxed. And if you don't, they make you have to sit in there and be helped to detox. And some people need that help, and that's fine. I did not want to pay to sit in a hospital and detox because I went, ape shit in Mexico on my last blaze of glory. So we negotiated, said, okay, it's a full week trip. We're going to go hard for 3 days. This is going to be like we're going to bury this thing, and just, had a good time. And I remember on the last day, I wanted to drink till I knew the hangover was going to hurt so bad there'd be no question, and we just drank all day, and it was booze and late night, and just, it's like whatever the last in-room cocktail I had that day, it's probably still in the corner of my mouth somewhere. That was my last drink. That was April 7th, 2012. And it's easy to remember because my first day of sobriety was that Sunday. And you're a golf guy, you'll remember this. It was the Sunday that Bubba Watson won the Masters, when he hit that crazy shot out of the rough and all that. Mm-hmm. So as you heavy drinkers know, the first half of my first day of sobriety was fine because my body still had some in it. The second half of that day and the day after were no cakewalks. Those were long hours. And I literally just had to white knuckle my way through the remaining 2.5 days of that trip with no drinks, just hating life. But I did it somehow, thank God, and got back. And when I got back, I was happy I cleared the, mandatory 3 days off the sauce, and got in and started hearing how recovery works from some people who know. And, that began my journey there.
Wow. And tell me about that outpatient journey.
So for me, it's like, I wanted to do everything in my power to not just jump into Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, everyone's heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. I had heard of it. I was like, it's just a bunch of people in church basements smoking cigarettes. I don't want that. That's not me. So I, researched this outpatient program that was down in La Jolla that was pretty reputable. And to me, it was just a few days a week after work, and I thought I could manage that, and no one would know I was doing it, and that was important to me. And I get down there the first day, and they're like, of course, a mandate of this thing is you got to go to 3 or 4 AA meetings a week in addition to the outpatient thing. Like, they give you like a little punch card and all that. And I'm like, I felt duped because I thought I had circumvented that aspect I didn't want to deal with. And thank God I hadn't, because the combination of all of it, it's like most things in life. You don't know which particular thing you're doing, whether it's your physical or mental health or your service work. It's like, you got to do it all. Like, it's all part of the pie. And that was kind of my steps towards doing it all. It's like, okay, there's a saying goes, my best thinking got me to that point. Like, my self-will and my best thinking got me to needing outpatient and having to white knuckle a couple of days sober at the end of my all-inclusive Mexican vacation. So at that point, I was willing to try someone else's way at that point. And, I went in there, and it's like, the physical detox off booze when you've been doing it for a long time is hard. And, you just give yourself some flexibility in other areas. Like, I think my routine was, I stopped by Subway, got a super tanker Diet Coke to caffeinate myself, and crushed a Subway and 3 chocolate chip cookies on the way down. So, like, prop myself up with sugar more than I should have for a while there. But like they also say, like whatever kills you the fastest, work on that thing first, and then you can move down the totem pole of the other vices that kill you a little bit slower. So I've been I'm still doing that, like the sugars on the corrective palette here still too, to work on my intake on that. But yeah, I'm just grateful. I finally took the plunge, went down there, and it's like first couple of times, it just seemed like, and it was just so intimidating to walk into the building and just admit it was time and take the action. But at the same time, it's like the minute you pass through the threshold of the door, there was just like, the 800-pound gorilla was off my back. It's like I didn't have to hide anymore. I was out there, and it's like in that came a lot of freedom too. And it's like, I consider myself very lucky. A lot of people come in and out, and I have a lot of friends who are in and out of recovery. And I was kind of struck sober when I finally took the initiative to get in there. And that's grace, that's unearned favor. It stuck with me, and I've done what people tell me to do. And every day is not perfect, but I have a design for living that I can do every day and recalibrate myself thanks to what I've learned and from some of these recovery folks that I've met early on.
Tell me about what did Deb say when you said, I'm doing this?
She didn't say much because she knew not to say much, because I think she was happy. In her mind, probably it's about time, honestly. And I really praise her, because I think she knew deep down the good person in me was in there, and what I was capable of a mature adult was in there. We just had to get through that, that rough spot. It's like, recovery's got a lot of cliches that people throw around because it just helps you remind yourself that you're not in control of things. But it's like there's a saying that says you can either let go or get dragged. And I was getting dragged. Like I was holding on for dear life. I couldn't imagine life at the ball game without a beer. I couldn't imagine going to a concert and not drinking and having a good time. And those are like things I like to do. And fast forward a decade of sobriety, it's like I can't imagine going to a concert and having a beer, even if I wasn't an alcoholic. Now it's like I get to enjoy the whole show, not waiting in the line to take a leak halfway through or 5 times during the show. And, it's a whole new world. It really is. And it's been amazing. Like I thought my life was over. I thought all the stuff I used to like to do was done. I wasn't going to like it anymore. And it's like, the transitional period of becoming sober, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a work in progress. Progress, not perfection, is a big slogan in that world as well. But after time and you get a little oxygen back in your brain, you really start feeling good. Your health feels good. The things you do feel good. Your relationships feel good. You're willing to become vulnerable with people that you weren't before, because you've kind of got a steady foundation that you learned how to get in recovery.
That's awesome, dude. So cool. So cool. Talk about how this journey that you're on has impacted you as a father.
Well, first of all, luckily, I've been sober 10 years and my oldest kid's 8. So none of my kids have ever seen me drunk, which is an absolute blessing. But a little more of a backstory is, during the drinking and everything, like we had a really hard time getting pregnant. I mean, we were struggling with fertility issues or pregnancy issues for 6 years. And that added to my stress, like, cause we all grew up trying not to get people pregnant. And then all of a sudden, when you want to have a family, if it doesn't happen in the first month, it's sort of a shot across your bow, and that becomes a stress and a control thing too. And, in hindsight, thank God I didn't have kids when I was still drinking or any of that while I was still drinking, because I would not have been a useful parent. And that sobriety has given me fatherhood. It's like, I don't believe the fatherhood exists without the sobriety, and I will not risk it for anything. I mean, I can only handle today at a time, but it's like, I don't want my kids to ever see me drunk. I hope, I'm not going to keep my kids from drinking beer and having a authentic upbringing, but I'm hoping what I've learned I can impart on them and teach them on some of the signs of addiction and alcoholism just to look out for. And just, like, I didn't know any of that. Probably took me longer to come around than maybe it would have if I knew, if I'd seen my grandpa drunk, or if I'd seen my father drunk directly, which I never did. I think that's the old fable of like why they say it skips a generation. Cause if a kid is traumatized and doesn't drink because their parent, messed them up drinking around them, they don't drink, but then the alcoholism's still in the blood and, crops up after that. So, I don't know. I'm just, being sober doesn't give me a pass of my kids dealing with drugs and alcohol, but it does give me at least a toolbox of how to deal with it. And it's being sober. The best gift, I think, quickly, is just, I'm not shy to open up and, express feelings with my kids. And I don't have to give them a hard time if they're being emotional and sharing things with me. I'm in a better place to receive that than I would have been if I was drinking and insecure myself. So I think as a parent, that's a great gift to give your children too.
That's amazing. I think it's just being able to talk about things that, and I think we all as dads and maybe moms, you're listening, we have our own insecurities, and sometimes we try to put onto our kids our own gaps, and we try to like protect them of our own gaps without knowing we're doing it. And their kids, they have to live their own life. It's their journey, not ours. I think we have to love and support them, put up the guardrails so they don't go off and doing too many bad things. But I think it's powerful. I've talked to my kids about, the alcoholism in our family, and we have to be very, very careful of that. Do you think you'll share your journey with them once they're at the age where they think they'll understand it?
I certainly hope so. It's hard. Like you said, it's like, I can't control what their path is. Best thing I can do is be ready to help them when they hit snags, and, hope God has a protection on them, just like he did with me. It's like, I did enough stupid things while under the influence of alcohol that I'm very lucky to be here right now. And on paper, I didn't have a lot of big repercussions. Like, I never got a DUI, luckily, not because I didn't deserve one at times. Never wrapped my car in a tree, never killed someone else driving in a blackout. Like, there's people that happens to, that why that happened to them and not me is just grace. It's like they weren't doing anything different. And you'll hear that a lot in recovery. And, it's like, I can't keep my kids from making mistakes and, scraping their knee and dabbling and all that. I just hope that what I've learned, they feel enough trust and safety in me that they can talk to me about it. And I can't jam it down their throat. I'm not going to try to, because you know how that goes over with kids. It's like, you just have to kind of be ready when they need help, and trust they trust me enough to stick their hand out to myself or Deb for that help when it comes.
Yeah. Powerful, bro. So one of the questions I like asking dads is an area of their dad game, but they know it's not quite where they want it to be. That we're working hard to become that ultimate leader. My gap, I always like to lead first, just to kind of set the stage, is patience. As a competitive person, sometimes my patience gets the best of me, and I have to like really slow down and at times go back to and either apologize to my wife or apologize to my kids, say, hey, that was not the best version of dad right there. Josh, tell me what comes to mind for you in an area of your dad game you're working hard to become better.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about that when we were talking before. It's like, patience is my big one too. I'm super impatient, like for myself and for other people. And it's like, it's not fair to put stuff I shouldn't even be putting on myself. I'm putting it on my kids and my wife. And like, and as a parent, patience is a big one. So it's like, if I'm being honest, my patience has improved drastically in recovery and sobriety, but I have a galaxy ahead of me to go for improvement still. My default setting is I still want to control it and be impatient. So that's a big one. And I think just for me, it's just another gap is just being willing to get uncomfortable and just do things that aren't in my wheelhouse with the kids, and go to some parent get-togethers that I don't think are my kind of people or activities, and go there and, don't prejudge it without investigation, I guess. And like I always, the the gains I make when I get uncomfortable are always there. So I don't know why I'm so reluctant to do it, but my default is like, I don't want to do something out of my comfort zone. Yet when I do it, there's always a good return there.
My boy Ted Lasso, be curious, not judgmental.
Yep.
And as we think about getting comfortable, there's a phrase, get comfortable to be uncomfortable. I joke to people like, if I stare at the weights as much as I want, I'm not going to get stronger. You actually have to lift them, and you're doing the heavy lifting, man. It's your story is inspiring. I'm sure this is going to hit home for a lot of people, and I just think what you're a super successful guy. You've done really, really well for yourself in the commercial real estate space. You're a guy that's really attacked something that's could be very, very uncomfortable and scary for people, and you've hit it head on. And you're, I think the more we talk about these things, the better we have a chance to fix them. And but no one's a mind reader. I think if we were, we'd be guessing people's weight at the fair down the Gallup, which I don't know if they do that anymore. Okay, so we think about fatherhood. We think about what we talk about regarding recovery. Just summarizing our conversation in actionable terms where dads can take what we've talked about today to become a better leader of their home, a better leader of themselves or their spouse. Tell me what a couple things that come to mind.
Just takeaways. It's like I've switched over to where I now have order in my life, and I needed to become sober to have that order in my life. But I have a routine I do that keeps me from defaulting into selfishness and self-centeredness. And if I do those things early, my day goes pretty good, and I'm tend to be present for my family and a little more of service. And I have many days where I'm horrible, like I'm still me. But just this routine I've lessened those days. And if you can find something, if it's just reading a morning reflection, or like, this isn't just for people who struggle with drugs and alcohol. Like there's all these things I do as a sober person, anyone could do if you don't have a drug and alcohol problem, and you would benefit from it. And part of that is also checking with other people who are recovering alcoholics for me, because I need to remember I'm not alone. Like disease and addiction wants you isolated. Like it wants you thinking by yourself, alone, not in community, not in fellowship. And, check in with your fellow dads, check in with your coworkers, check in with your kids. It's like when I do all that, I feel part of my community and not like I have to solve all the world's problems on my own. And it's simple. Like it's not easy, but it's a simple solution to everything.
Let me recap what I heard. Sobriety has given you order in your life. Find a routine, ideally a positive one, that will help you kind of stick through these things to create that best version of yourself. We're not alone. Disease wants you to be alone, but you don't have to be. And have the courage to you said check in, but I'll change it to say, like, just be curious with dads and ask questions because you care, not questions just to check a box, and see where those conversations are going to go. Love it, man. Before we get into the lightning round, which is when I go completely random. You're going to get inside of a screw loose quarterback, Uncle Rico style. Talk about a little bit life in the real estate world. How was that going? What's the movement like? How can people learn more about you if someone's in Boise and like, I got a building to sell. How do I get this guy's information?
Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I've been doing commercial real estate. I interned a couple summers in college before I graduated even. And then I've been in this world ever since. So I've been doing it a long time. And it was interesting, like switching markets, at this point in my career was a plunge. You've made some big changes. You know what I'm talking about. It's like, I had a lot of fear with just like, okay, I'm leaving a bunch of long-term clients and local business and connections and all that. And I knew in my heart this was a change for my family and myself that needed to be made. And you work the process like you would if you hadn't moved. And you network, you connect with people, get to know the geography, learn who the local players are and all that. And surround yourself with people you can trust and work with that are of good character. And business wise, it's just, the economy has been, I specialize in industrial properties, and there's been an arms race to build more. Industrial is kind of a hot market type, and everyone wants to buy it and develop it. And there's been an arms race to do it. In Boise, like when I moved here, there's a ton of opportunity in this market. And if anything, there's not enough industrial yet. So there's a lot of guys kind of rushing into this market, want to develop new industrial products, which for me as an agent is exciting. And that doesn't mean any dollars today, but I think the trajectory of working in this market looks really good. And I don't know, we moved to Boise to try to get off the hustle and bustle of the densely populated area. And it's definitely a lot more people landing here than there were before, including us. I would say to those people thinking about Boise, I'd say it's not that great. Just stay where you are. You're good. I'm kidding. We love it here, and the lifestyle's good here. And for the right people, this is a great place to live. Just do your research before you give up your ocean view and your country club membership, because it's a little different out here in a good way.
Yeah, you got a badger. You got a pet badger now. Okay, we're going to go in the lightning round. Your job is to answer questions as quick as you can. My job is to see if I can get a giggle out of you. Are you ready?
Unlikely.
Okay. If there was to be one 80s comedic character to represent you, is it Booger or Wormser?
There needs to be two other choices on that multiple choice. Booger or maybe Gilbert.
Not girls, Gil, women. Favorite 80s comedy movie?
There are many, so that's a hard one. I think I don't recall. You should know this, and I should also. Did Caddyshack did it come out in the 80s or was it 79?
70s. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of count that as 80s. Like that was my first had to memorize it kind of movie, and it spun from there. But I love all the Fletch, and all of that.
Anthony Michael Hall era.
Yep. All the John Hughes movies and Ferris Bueller and all. Like for Father's Day, we just watched the original Vacation with all the bad words and inappropriate humor, and it's just classic. Like they don't make them like that anymore.
No. You ever bop your baloney?
Stack of nudie books this high.
There's the giggle. If you were to go on vacation right now, where are you going?
Vacation right now, where am I going? Would love to get the whole crew back to Hawaii.
Okay.
Probably some of the deeper parts of the island, not the touristy areas. We used to go every March before children. We have not been to Hawaii since children, so we're long overdue. And I would love, now that the kids can swim, would love to get the kids with us and just get away from the hotels, get an Airbnb and explore a little bit.
Nice. Tell me the last book you read.
Last book I read. I don't read them. I am the patience thing again. I'm not a big reader. I'll listen to books a little bit, and I listen to podcasts and bits and pieces. Last one I listened to all the way through there's an autobiography by a guy named Mark Lanigan, who's a musician, singer from the Screaming Trees, and brutal drug addict and alcoholic. Like his story is just crazy. Like that guy should have died 1,000 deaths. He has since passed recently, but I listened to that whole story. He's from Ellensburg, grew up there, wow. Screaming Trees lead singer, and just was in the mix of all the heroin and the heavy drugs of the early 90s in the music industry. And it's fast. Like as someone in recovery, I'm always fascinated to hear other people's like stories and how they eventually got into recovery. And like that book was all about that. So
wow.
Worth checking out I think I listened to it on Audible.
Wow. Very cool. I'll make it sure it's linked in the show notes. Last song in your phone listened to that your buddies would be like, seriously, you listen to that?
I got kids, so we listen to a lot of weird stuff. But let me see.
Glenda Carlisle?
No.
Debbie Gibson?
Well, I make we have a pickleball court down the hill, and like I always make playlists. So I'll put some cheesy ones on there. Like there were some Hall and Oates on there.
Oh God, so good.
You Make My Dreams Come True. And I just put a bunch of 80s smash pop hits and arena rock on there and just put it on random. So there's some good ones that some people come out of the woodwork and just say they love them. And other people are like, I can't believe this is playing at your house right now.
I love it. Keep people on their toes. Tell me 2 words to describe Deborah.
Faithful, which is her strong one, faith in God, and just faithful in me and our family, and just positive. She's just a positive person. And it's been just a great yin to my yang. Like when I first met her, she's late for everything. And I'm one of those people who paces if we're not early. So it's like we've kind of met in the middle. So she's an amazing compliment to me that I didn't know I was looking for and I didn't know I needed. And without her, I'm not sitting here sober, father of 3. What if you'd have told me 12 years ago when I was still drinking that I would be living in Idaho with 3 boys, 10 years sober, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. Not one of those 3 things are even on the radar.
Yeah, that's awesome though. Good reflection. So if now there's a book that's going to be written about your life, tell me the title.
Moderation is not in the cards, but is an acquired taste.
Okay. Now this book, Joshua, is I love asking this question. This book is making headway. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's in airports. It's everywhere. Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Everybody's buying it. And now Hollywood says we got to make a movie out of this. Tell me who will star you in this new hit Hollywood movie.
I think we'd probably go with John Krasinski, Jim from The Office.
Oh yeah, I like that. I was in my mind. I almost thought you were going to say Nicolas Cage.
I would have named the book something different if that was the case.
Oh, all right, brother. Lightning round's over. You made it through it. This has been an awesome way to spend a Monday. 58 minutes of just gold that Josh has shared with us. I want to say thanks to our sponsors, Catch Sitka Seafoods. Thank Acme Homes. I'm so grateful for your support. I know all the dads are thankful for the support along the way. Excuse me, a little allergies here. For everybody who keeps listening weekly, I am beyond thankful. If you'd have told me 3 years ago that I would have had a podcast in season 3, and I would have said, what's that? And it is such an amazing journey. It keeps me curious. It keeps me grounded. And I hope these messages we're sharing with you dads at home, you're feeling the same love and joy that we all get out of the production process. But thank you again, Josh. Thanks so much for your time. If people want to connect with you and learn more about you and maybe reach out about the journey you've on that maybe you can help them, what's the best way they can go about reaching you?
Anyone who wants to talk about recovery or has questions, I would love to hear from you. I stay sober by helping other people. So bring it on, please. And just send Casey a message and he can share my mobile phone number. Just text me or my email, and would love to hear from you.
Okay. Are you on LinkedIn?
I am, but I don't check that thing very often.
Okay. I was just saying
Facebook and Instagram, I'm on there.
And what is your Instagram handle? Because I can tag you in this one.
What is it? CSEA San SAN Boy BOI Seattle, San Diego, Boise.
Oh, there we go. Cool. We'll make sure that's tagged in the show notes when this comes out. Josh, thanks so much, man. I love you, brother. Really, really appreciate our friendship, and I'm so grateful for our time today.
Yep. Thanks for letting me get uncomfortable this morning.
Love it, buddy.